Welcome to Conversations with Personal Finance Champions. Here we talk with leaders advancing economic empowerment through financial education. Today we have a great guest, Rachael Hanible. You've likely seen her. She had a best-selling book tour. She had a sold-out book tour as well through Barnes & Noble. She's been on multiple media interviews promoting financial education and wellness and her efforts in financial education and coaching. She hosts events all around the country from all ages. I saw on your website from age 3 to 73. So a big age group differential there. And I'm sure some unique perspectives that you'll get from that. So for everybody listening, if you're looking to build a multifaceted financial wellness initiative, there's nobody better than Rachael. In addition, she is this year's recipient of the National Financial Educators Council's Financial Education Instructor of the Year Award. Very deserving. That goes out to one person per year. That really represents best practices in this industry. So it's an honor to have you. Welcome, Rachael.
Thank you for having me.
And let's start out. I know you have a lot of unique perspectives and a lot of unique insight to share, but let's start out on your growth. I think it's very organic and more common. Like a lot of us would relate to your growth in this industry. Maybe if you could take us back to what were the motivating forces and how you really started, that would be helpful.
Well, I grew up in a neighborhood where I often say that the hope was low, but the crime was high. And a lot of the issues that my friends and, were dealing with in school that we would hear about constantly was just money issues, right? And I went through all my 12 years and no one in school mentioned about like credit, and investing and budgeting. And I just thought that was weird. I felt like that was one of the main things that, the people in those neighborhoods really needed to talk about the most. And so it was just one of those things where you just become the change that you want to see. And so I did the work on myself to just educate myself and just whether all these things, right, about how money works and how we can get it to work for us and how we can build a healthy relationship with money. And then I just began to go back into the houses of the parents of my friends I went to school with and their grandparents, and spent time with just educating them, just giving them the information as I was learning it.
That's great. So when you were doing that initially, was it more one-on-one, maybe with friends, family members, providing them that education, or what did that look like initially?
It started with one-on-one. It started with me just overhearing a conversation, hanging out at my friend's house, and, her mom talking about credit. And I was like, hey, I know a little bit about that. And so that conversation, it was just organic. I just started to, tell her the little things that I knew at that time that I was still learning. And it just grew to, now let me call this other person. And this other person mentioned having credit issues too. And what do you know about investing? What do you know about budgeting? And so it started with one-on-one, and then it grew. I would show up at a house I thought it was just for one person, and the whole family would be there. And so we would just have dinner and sit and have, healthy money conversations. And, any questions that they asked me that I didn't know, I would just add it to the list of things that I needed to learn.
That's a great way to learn, and a very interesting way you've built in this industry. Now, I feel the same as you. Why aren't they teaching this in school? You've been providing that solution. But, when other people are saying, you learned it to improve your own finances. But when people were talking about it, you overheard, you could have been quiet, not said anything. What was that made you jump in and say, hey, I want to talk about this? I'm just curious.
It was really like you find something that you like, that you're excited about. Maybe it's a new restaurant, a new thing, and then you just want to tell a lot of people. I was seeing growth in my relationship with money, and it was making me so excited that I just couldn't wait to share and help someone else, because I'm thinking, if it's making me feel this way, I want everyone I know to experience this. And so you didn't have to, kind of poke me too much. I would just start to say like, hey, I can help with that. Guess what I know? And so it, just began to just spread fast. And I enjoyed every moment of it.
That's great. And I think it's important to point out here that education can occur in various ways, right? You're doing a one-on-one normal conversation, maybe initially it was a normal conversation, maybe later you brought them down to spreadsheets and things like that. But what was that like? I mean, did you work with people longer term? Was it like a dinner conversation, or was there some follow up? I guess early on, what did that look like, and maybe where did that grow to?
Early on, I definitely would, it would just be, here it hit or miss, because a lot of people weren't comfortable with talking about their personal finances. I mean, we are creating an atmosphere to have these conversations more often now where people are comfortable. But at the time when I was having those conversations in the beginning, it wasn't where I could just call these people up again and say, hey, has your credit improved? Did you
Yeah.
do what we talked about? And so for a while, it was just, I would give out information. And then maybe if I ran into that person again, they would give me an update, but I would be too shy to ask for an update. And then it began to grow to let me see how I can help these people build plans for their money, not just giving them pieces of information here and there on the particular thing they may ask. How can I help them holistically just improve their finances? And so with that came some follow up, right? Because now there's pieces that we have to walk through. We have to walk through the budgeting. We have to walk through your spending. And those things begin to, I would see people 3 times and then 4 times and once a month. And those things begin to grow. But in the beginning, I was just too afraid to ask them again. Are you saving like you mentioned?
Yeah.
And, I was too shy for that.
Yeah, that can be awkward, especially if they've taken positive steps. They probably will share with you. If they haven't, maybe they won't. But it sounds like so your coaching process was really formalized over time, just kind of. And I love what you said. This is a really good point for a lot of people because a lot of people feel like I don't know everything yet. I can't start talking about it. And you said, hey, if I didn't know something, I went and looked it up and got the information. I love that perspective. And how do you think that approach to your coaching and later your financial education really helped you?
It helped me a lot because people felt more comfortable because they felt like it was possible. Oftentimes, we would have situations where the people who are giving us this information are kind of talking above our heads and they are presenting themselves as a know-it-all, but like can't have a regular, normal conversation sometimes. And so me being able to be honest and transparent and say, I don't know. I still do that with my students today. If there's a person who asks me a question, I would honestly say, I don't know. Or maybe I don't have the most updated information on that, right? Can we do some research together or can I have your information? I'll do research and come back to you. And people are more willing to trust you and are more willing to come back when it kind of like you become a human. You become a human. They feel like they can look at you eye to eye and they appreciate that I could have just given them fluff, right? Like I could have just said something, a whole bunch of words that would confuse them just to avoid saying I don't know. And I never want to do that. And so I've learned over time that that's what keeps, people coming back because they feel comfortable and they know I'm going to be honest with them.
I love that. That is a true golden nugget, being able to have the confidence and knowledge needed to say, I don't know. Right. And I think too, because, people in the space, we all want to be that, that leading expert and we're working toward that. But there's plenty of stuff I don't know. There's plenty of stuff people don't know. And being able to have the confidence in your abilities and saying, hey, I don't know, let's look at it together. I think that's a golden nugget for everybody. And things change. It's a rapid changing time. So there's going to be a lot of things you don't know. I get questions all the time just with my position here about stuff. I'm like, I don't remember. Just, I can go find out that information and validate it. But that is a great, really great tip for, especially for those newer people. You don't need to be an all-knowing expert. You can be an expert and have the confidence enough to say, I don't know, but I'll work with you. Great point there. And so it sounds like that coaching, that one-on-one that evolved into more of the small groups. What was that like? And what was those initial classes look like when you had more than one person there? How did that transition occur for you?
It was a shock at first because, again, this, young lady, asked me to come and help her, but didn't tell me that she also told other family members as well that I would be there. And so I was like, okay, well, I guess I'm, helping everyone or trying to answer. So I was kind of thrown in there. But then it worked and it was fun. And then the kids were asking questions and I was like, wait, I can answer that too. And it began to grow. And then they would say, hey, well, can you come to our church and come talk to the people there? Or, hey, can you come to our organization? And I was like, okay, I guess so. I wasn't really looking at it as, oh, this is a business or this is the thing. I'm just thinking I'm just helping people. This is something I love to do. I'm doing it and it's helping people and it's helping me. And that's all I thought at first. It wasn't like a real concrete plan to, how am I going to expand? And so I wasn't as prepared because I wasn't planning on it. It was just, I didn't want to say no when, other people saw that in me that I could do, bigger groups or bigger settings. And so I figured it was worth the try. And I kind of just had to just get better as I go. But it was fun. I will say that the learning part was fun because I was able to be transparent and honest, I was getting that back. And I believe that we had to have fun because it was such a tough conversation, that, we had to make sure that it was just a comfortable environment. And so it was rough, but fun as I was learning in the beginning.
That's great. And so you started to get invited to these various church groups and different functions where people were at. Were you mainly serving adults at the time, or what did that look like early on? And what do those conversations were like with those initial groups you served?
Yes, it was mainly adults in the beginning for the first few years. And the conversations, it was really the basics. It was really just certain terms that they had maybe heard, but didn't understand what they meant, right? Like even when we talk about investing, when we talk about retirement funds and explain this to me, I've heard this word. What does that word mean? And how does this look? And explain the basics of just banking, right? Like the different options that we have with banking. A lot of people just default to the bank their parents had, right? Yeah. It doesn't mean it's what's best for you right now. All the options of just how, ways that you can save, ways that you can cut back. Those are the basic foundational conversations that we were having for the first few years. Credit scores, just how does it work? How do I improve my score? How do I even find out what my score is? Where do I go to find out what's on my report? Those are just the basic conversations that I was just having with adults for the first few years, just laying a really good foundation for them to build on in the future.
That's wonderful. I think that foundation's key. And when you're introduced to those churches and various groups, what was it like when you're communicating with a pastor, whoever? Who did you talk to get in to that church, those initial churches? And what was the conversation like with that pastor, whoever brought you in? I know a lot of people are looking to serve their faith-based community, their nonprofit community. And I think your guidance on that conversation with the persons that's letting you into their venue, I think they'll find that helpful.
So I have mixed responses in the beginning. And there were some pastors who said, no, we're not having that here. And then there were some who said yes, because again, a member had shown proof that I, have helped them, right? So they would go on my behalf and speak up on my behalf. Hey, she's helped me do this, this, and this. I know that the people here would love her. Can she come in and talk, to the people? And so again, sometimes it would be yes, sometimes it would be no. But many of those no's came back around to a yes, which was a lesson in of itself. That I think that because, again, at this time, people are not doing this. People are not doing in our neighborhoods. They weren't doing what we were talking about, having these finance conversations. And so many people were probably just scared. Hey, we've never had that before. I don't know any other church who has had that. I don't know where this is going to go. Right. And so after seeing that I'm doing it at other places and other places like it, many of those pastors and those leaders came back and said, okay, all right, we understand now. You can, when are you available to come talk to our members? So it was great.
Yeah, I think you had two really good points there. One is social proof, right? Social proof is helpful, being able to prove that you're able to conduct high-level programs where people truly benefit and they're saying good things about you. The second point is you had somebody coming in and saying good things on your behalf as an introduction. I think those are both excellent strategies to building long-term relationships. And the third one is, hey, you're going to get no's. And for some of them will turn around. Some of them will be no in 10 years. You're going to get no's, but that's all part of this. And I think, with your passion and your ability, you've shown actual outcomes. I think that's very helpful for everybody here listening. And sounds like at this point, you're still working mainly with adults, and it maybe is starting to be formalized. When did Rachael say, hey, now it's a business, this thing has legs, and when did that occur?
There was a woman at my old church, and I was helping her with her credit for a while. And one time I showed up at her house to do what we normally do, have our finance time and our updates. And she stopped me at the door and she said, I won't let you come in and continue to help me without letting me pay you. I have to pay you. Our credit score has increased this many points. I've done this. I've saved this much. He was, running down all the things that we had done together. And she said, you have to let me pay you. You can't keep doing this for free. It's unfair to you. And I was so scared. I was so scared. I was like, people pay for these things. I was just doing it for fun. I just loved it. This is 2 years in. 2 years, I was just doing it for free because I really loved it. And I said, is $20, is $25 too much? I was so shy and scared to charge anything. She said, whatever it is, I have to give you something because you're helping me. And it's unfair. And that's when it began to click that this was a business. This could be a business, that this could be something that I can, begin to do a little more widespread, because at that point I was doing it for free, but I was limited to how far I could drive. Right. And staying local or staying close because, I'm not getting money for this, and so that's when, that day with her really was the moment that really shifted everything for me to begin to think bigger with this mission.
I love that. I love people like that, first of all, that see value. They're getting something, they want to reciprocate. I love people like that. But it just proves that, hey, you really earned your value and you did it with a giving spirit. And that it took you here. So that's awesome. And what did, when you said, okay, hey, this can have legs, what did the first few steps look like for you? What did you lay out initially when you said, hey, I'm taking this serious as a business? What were maybe the first 3-5 things that you did to make that move?
I wanted to make a list of things that I wanted to be my top 3. What are the things that I can teach people, well, and that would help them the most? That would be my target things, right? And so it was budgeting, it was saving, and it was credit. Those were the 3 things that I said, I know for sure that these are going to be my things that I want to mainly help people with. And so I began to change my name on social media to the budget lady. It was certain things that I was very strategic about, making sure that I'll let people know, hey, if you need help with these 3 things, I can help you. And for myself, making a list of ways that, like, how I am unique, I'm going to be different in how I teach these things, how I'm going to use my gifts to make sure that the way that I'm helping people in this area is different from other people that they may have been receiving this information from previously, right? How am I different? And I wanted to make sure I spend some time with that myself because I wanted to make sure that I was doing it my way and not just, giving information that the internet is given, right? I'm not just repeating, information without giving it in a way that's my way. And so I was very, very strategic about those two things. What am I giving out? And how am I giving this information out? And making sure that I market it in that way. So those are the things, that's where I started.
That's great. You started with your strengths, identifying those strengths, and then started marketing from there. And in terms of marketing, website, did that come early on, or what was those initial foundations of your business infrastructure?
Yeah, the first few years I did not have a website. And it was just, I would book my sessions, just send the information out I would have an email address. So I would say, here's my email address. If you need, help with these 3 things, email me and I will set up a time for us to talk one-on-one. And then after the one-on-one, I would send them their personalized money plan that we came up with together to how they can reach their goals and all those things. And it was just through email. Email me, I'll book it, and then I'll email you back the plan that we came up with together to help you reach your goal. And then I'll say, come back when you're ready for the next one. And I was just doing that for a while. And then someone said, you should have a website. I was like, I could do that too. So yeah, probably it was just email for first, few years. And then I was able to get a website up and moving.
That's great. That's always a big question. People have a huge long list of things that they're trying to do before they start the education or coaching. And, a lot of it is, hey, just diving in, right? Following your passion, getting involved, and then building those things around it. So I love that. And I think too, through that process of talking with people, you're able to identify what you enjoy, who you like working with, your strengths, and that will help you build out good quality websites. Going back to us early on, I did a lot of volunteer work, but I built a website very early. And I look back on it through the Wayback Machine. It's a tool online. It's laughable, right? But it evolved like 50 times over the years. But had I had a better handle on our core strengths back then, it could have saved a lot of time and energy of redoing websites. So I like that pathway. And I think for a lot of our listeners too, it mentally eliminates a barrier to start doing their passion. So
yeah,
great advice, great guidance there. And when you did start, I know there was an eventual trickle in, and your website is, if you can give us that URL so people can, it's a really nice looking website. So I think good for people.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. It's RachelHanable.com, www.RachelHanable.com.
Perfect. And a lot of it shows all your programs on there, which is wonderful. And I noticed you're doing a lot for kids. So when did that trickle down to kids occur? What was that like? And what led you down that path? Because working with a 5-year-old is a lot different than working with a 50-year-old. So I'm curious what led you down there and how that started.
During my virtual sessions, when I shifted from, driving to people's homes, my virtual sessions, of course, people would be at home and people would be with their children. And oftentimes, people's children would hear me or see me on the screen and they would, pop in and out. And so I would have fun sometimes talking with the young people in the middle of, speaking with the adults. And it became fun. And then it became a thing where now the children were holding the parents accountable to meeting up with me because they wanted to see me on the screen too. And so, it started with this organic just conversations of the kids just so happen to be in the room with the parent while I'm doing our session. Mm-hmm. And they would ask questions and I would answer them. And one of the parents said, hey, do you talk to kids? You should come to my son's school, And I think that was because her son went to school repeating something that I said about money. Mm. And she asked me, do I, go to schools and talk to kids? And I was like, no, I don't. I've never done that before. But I love your son. And I wouldn't mind seeing him again. And if he's, going to the school and giving them money tips, I can go too. And that's where it started. It's where it started. She said, I'll send a message to, the principal and I'll let them know. And sure enough, they gave me a date to come in. And I was like, okay, I guess I'll talk to kids now.
That's
Then
great.
I started to do research on that. What does that look like? Because people go to school to teach children all kinds of, things. And I'm like, money is for a lot of people, it's just a complex, conversation, a topic. So now I need to go back and educate myself on how I can bring this to young people in a way that they can understand, that it would stick, that it won't confuse them more. And that will make them fall in love with having a great relationship with money. And that's where a lot of the studies and a lot of the reading came about. I wanted to be able to make sure that I would give them good information in a way that they can understand it on their level.
Makes a lot of sense. Two important things you said there. One is, a lot of your growth, I think, has occurred through referrals and doing good things, showing you're really caring about somebody. So that's for everybody out there. I think being active, whether volunteering, working with families, one-on-one, whatever, being active is key. Referrals open up, and we see that time and time again. I think you're a perfect example of that. And when you did go into the classrooms, I'm glad you did add to your studies, because again, it's different types of challenges when you're, working with younger ages. I guess, what are some of the things you enjoy about working with, if you compare working with kids and adults, I guess, what are some of the things you love about working with each group? Maybe one challenge of working with each group.
Well, when I compare, people ask me this question a lot because I do both probably about equal amount. And so I always say that the young people are not in a hurry to be wealthy. And that of all of the millionaires in training classes that I've had with thousands of young people, they've never said, hey, how long is this wealthy thing going to take? Right? Or how long is this financial freedom thing going to take? The adults are always in a hurry. They always want a quick turnaround. They always want their credit to shoot up overnight. They have like these unrealistic, sometimes, expectations of like how quickly we can get to financially free after X amount of years of kind of just doing whatever, right? I love that the young people are not in a hurry. I love that they are just here for the fun. They're here for the information. They're here for the ride, and they dream much bigger. The things that they are asking for. One of the things that I do is my favorite thing to do is millionaire checks. We do millionaire checks, and they are able to write a check to one person or one organization for whatever amount that they want, for whatever reason. It could be a donation. It can be an investment. They want to help someone else start their business. I let them dream big, far, and wide. And I have, fake checks that I print out, and I, let them sign it and everything. There's always so many zeros. There's always a big number when they are handing me their checks or showing me their checks at the end of the class. And so that is my favorite thing to do with the young people. The only thing sometimes, unfortunately, with my connections with certain schools and certain youth groups is that I don't see them again sometimes.
Yeah.
Sometimes, schools, I may only see them one time. They may only have me come in for one class, maybe two. Meanwhile, other schools, I'll be there twice a year, or we have whatever the contract is where I constantly get to see and grow with these young people and see them putting certain things into practice, see them opening up their bank accounts. And so it saddens me sometimes because there are some certain young people that I said, oh, I would like to see where he or she is now. You can tell when there's a light bulb moment with them in the class that I want to be able to follow through, and I'm not able to. So that's probably one of the downsides. Now, the adults.
And if I can jump in here for a second, I just want to make a point on your millionaire in training. I saw a video on your website, a young lady, I don't know, maybe third grade. I'm bad at judging kids' ages, but she said $125,000. I don't know third grade that can say that, right? That was impressive in itself. Besides the great, wonderful stories of how they're wanting to help family and other things, but that stood out to me when you made that comment. They were able to say verbally 125,000 without missing a beat. So yeah, I just wanted to share that, but yeah, let's hear about the adult side here now.
The adults already mentioned that they're often in a hurry, and sometimes the turnaround is unrealistic, the expectations there. But there's also a humbling that we've come this far and we've done it the way we've been doing it has not been working. So now I'm open. I'm open to hear, and to start with a clean slate. And I love that because I want them to know that it's never too late to improve your relationship with money. And so you mentioned earlier, one of my current clients is 73 years old. I love that because, again, it's never too late. So, I get to enjoy the ups and downs on both sides.
That's awesome. I think it's unique and it keeps everything fresh. I do like working with kids if it's in a supervised environment, but I'm more drawn to teens. But the thing is, there's so many unique niches, right? There's so many unique things. When we get to adults, there's low socioeconomic, mid, high. With kids, you get all different types of people and interests. And so it is interesting. There's so many different verticals and niche markets here. It makes it fun and you can really go towards your passion, which yours happened very organically, which is wonderful. And I'm really glad that you continued your education and learning. You could have said, no, I don't know kids. I'm not going to do it. But you went ahead. I know you took the CFEI course. Is that when we met originally?
I was getting ready to say that.
Okay,
that is
curious, yeah.
That is originally when we met originally. Yeah.
Interesting. And what did that do with your help in the classroom for kids? What was that?
A lot. Not just for kids, just all around a lot. The information, the tools that are given in our certification process, in the classes, it is because again, it's one of those things where you don't know what you don't know. And if you're doing something that you haven't seen done before, you don't really have anyone you could just pick up the phone and call, hey, how do you do this? And so going through the classes and going through the prompts, the NFEC was just asking me questions I didn't even think about, presenting different scenarios that can help bring certain topics to life was extremely helpful. So not just with the young people, that's how I found you, but wanted to do better for them and wanted to start teaching them, but it ended up just helping me with all of my coaching all around.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, I can tell just from your initial statements on finding answers, getting knowledge, making sure you're a good steward of that time for those people and having their end goal in mind. I think that's a theme of everything you're doing. Again, we had a lot of more entries here this year, I believe, than any year. You stood out. I love what you're doing for the Financial Education Instructor of the Year Award. I love what you're doing. I think this has been very valuable for everybody here just to hear your growth. It doesn't need to start out with a big website, a business idea and things like that. It starts out with a passion, following those leads and seeing where it takes you. It's taking you to amazing places. And if you can go back those 12 years, take a time machine back to Rachael in, what was it, 2013, if my math is correct there. What would you share with her then, as a starting, maybe even not thinking about the business side? What would you say to yourself going back those years?
I would definitely be proud that she started where she was. Because again, a lot of people have like these markers before they start, like all these things. And that helped me a lot in my business and that helped me build my clientele a lot. So I'm going to say something good before I, say what she could do better. Definitely, I wish I would have done better with building the business, working on the business side of it earlier. Yes, it was something that I really enjoyed, but I could have had both, right? I could have had a lot of the business things in place, business cards, and just having some type of system in place that would have helped me better organize and better serve. And again, mentioned the website and, even being able to find you earlier would have been great. And so those are the things that I think that, I know for sure would have helped me more earlier on. And so, those are the things I would change.
That's great. I think it's great advice. And, but I do love your journey, right? Very organic. Again, following passion, following those leads. And I just love what you're doing. And it was great actually talking with you here in the interview process a few weeks ago. And great to say, I told you before the show, we should have recorded that. Great conversation there as well. But I want people to be able to get a hold of you, learn more about you. If you could share your website again, your social media channels, that would be great.
Sure. My website is www.rachaelhanible.com. And I'm going to spell it out if that's okay. RACHAELHANIBLE. And I'm Rachael Hanible. You'll find me on LinkedIn, on Facebook, and on Instagram. I am peptalks_. And so that's where you can find all of my information. If you want to book a Millionaires in Training class or one-on-one, whatever it may be, you can find me in all those places.
That's wonderful. We will put the links in the show notes here for you all as well. And please, I think this is a supportive community. Please like, follow, share, do all the social media stuff. Anytime we can help a fellow person that has a shared cause out, please do so. I think she's doing some wonderful things. The more you support her and her efforts, the bigger impact she can make. And in turn, it comes back tenfold, right? Rachael, it's been just a true pleasure talking with you today. I love what you're doing. You've provided some golden nuggets for everybody here. And I look forward to talking with you here again soon. Keep up the great work.
Thank you.